This is the 12th video in this scripting series, and today I'm going to explain the Roblox Client Server model along with the difference between scripts and local scripts. There's a great article on the Developer Hub that I'll link in the description. I'm going to be talking through this article along with adding some information to explain it a little bit further, and then also talking about two other articles. This image is the client server model. The server is the cloud, and the tablets and computer are clients. A client is a tablet, computer, or console that you play Roblox on, so one of these three right here. And a server is a powerful computer used to process and manage all the client's connections to a game that is running on the server. The clients in the server are constantly sending messages back and forth. The client will send information to the server, such as physics updates about how different objects around a player are moving and where the player is moving as well. This touches on the subject of network ownership. The physics for some objects are calculated on the server and some are calculated on different clients. So check out this article that I'll link in the description if you want to read more about network ownership. All this information is sent from the client to the server so that the server can process the information and communicate it to all of the other clients in the game, all of the other players in the game. This is so that when one player moves or one client moves, all of the others can see that that player is moving. Now that we've talked about the communication between clients and servers, let's talk about the difference between scripts and local scripts. Scripts run on the server, so in the cloud right here, and then local scripts run on the client, so your phone, tablet, computer, anything that you're playing Roblox on. Also, it's important to note that local scripts will only run in a player's character, player GUI, backpack, player scripts folder, tool when it's equipped, and the replicated first folder. Any server code would be in a script and would run on one of Roblox's servers. You might be wondering where module scripts come into play here. We haven't covered module scripts yet in this series, but I'll be covering them very soon. Module scripts will actually run wherever they're used. So if you require a module script in a local script, it will run locally on the client. If you require it in a script, then it will run on the server. It's important to understand this model well if you want to make games that are not easily exploitable. I say that because you shouldn't trust any code that is run on the client. Hackers could theoretically run any code they want on the client side. For important actions or game mechanics, you should use the server to make server-side checks that the client is behaving properly. For example, if you have a shop system, you can't trust the client to decide if they have enough money to afford an item. If you have code that checks to see if a player has enough money to afford an item, it needs to be located on the server. So this right here is a depiction of how you should set this up. You should be using remote functions and events for something like this. I'll cover remote functions and events in more detail in the future, but they're a good way that you can send messages from the client to the server asking the server to perform some action. So you could use a local script to fire a remote event when a player presses a button, such as a buy button. This remote event will fire, and then you'll have a script that's listening for that remote event to fire. Once it fires, the script will check to see if the player has enough money. If the player does, they'll give the player the item that they're trying to purchase. If it doesn't, then they won't give the item to the player. Theoretically, a hacker could change how much money they have in a game and then approve themselves for a purchase if the code for this approval is also on the client side. The reason this wouldn't trick the server is that not all client-side changes are replicated to the server. In fact, most client changes are not replicated to the server. You may have heard of filtering enabled before. It is the property of the workspace that prevents client changes from being replicated to the server. You used to be able to disable it, but now disabling it doesn't do anything, which is a good thing. It only protects you from hackers, so don't worry about that. The only client-side changes and actions that are replicated immediately are right here. So some properties on the local humanoid, sound playback, depending on if you have this one property set to false, click detector input events, animation playback, and then also physics simulated on parts that a client has network ownership of. That's what I talked about before with this network ownership article right here. You can set that manually. And then also it's set automatically based on where parts are. So if a part's close to a player, then that client might be simulating that part if it's moving, and only if it's moving by physics. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to like the video if it helped you out, subscribe for more in the future, and leave any questions below in the comments.